Hello, hello. How are you doing today? Today we're going to talk about love languages. So, for those of you who know what love languages are, you will know how amazing they are already. Love languages were created by Dr. Gary Chapman. Oh my gosh, he's like a minister and also a marriage counselor and many other things. And they've really caught on lately because people are understanding just how powerful they are. So, what is a love language? Well, I'm sure a lot of people have different views on what those are, but essentially, there's five by Dr. Gary Chapman. That's who we're going to talk about today. So, there's physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, and acts of service. So we're going to go over each one and do just a little bit of information on each one just to see what that might mean for your partner or a friend or yourself. Because we should give love to ourselves as well, because that's what I'm all about. So the first one that we're going to talk about is physical touch. And I remember being in an environment where I worked for the military and as a civilian, and for the most part, you don't touch. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but it's just a very specific kind of environment. I just remember this one sergeant just put her hand on my shoulder and leaned over and put down a plate or I don't remember. She put something down, but it was just something so wonderful about her doing that. Like I just really felt closer to her or something. I'm not really sure. And we weren't like friends, but it was just very interesting. And I saw her do that to other people. So very, very appropriate touch. It was just so subtle. I was like, that is really cool. I don't do that a lot, but yet I love physical touch. So if you don't know what your love languages are, I'll tell you about how you can figure them out later. There's a quiz you can take. So physical touch, if you have a partner that I'm trying to get to my notes, bear with me. If you have a partner that is in need of physical touch, oh, well, let me say it differently. It doesn't matter really. Physical touch, people show love in different ways, right? So if I show love by giving physical touch, that means that's how I show love, and I'm going to get love back by, or at least to me, it seems like, well, if somebody does that to me, that must mean they love me, right? Because that's how I express my love. If my top choice would be words of affirmation, so I'm like, oh, you look really great today. Look how beautiful you are. I love the color or the shape or whatever of your hair, whatever it is, your words of affirmation. So that's my love language out. When people say things to me, I just feel extra special because they're speaking my love language. The same goes with quality time. I spend time with somebody at small, quiet, intimate moments. They spend time with me. There's a connection there. Receiving gifts, I think that's pretty understandable, right? People give gifts. I happen to be a person that could care less about gifts. I don't know why. It's not like I'm averse to getting something, but for some reason, that would be my bottom one, my fifth love language. It's really just not that important to me. I don't, if somebody doesn't ever give me a gift, I'm like, I'm okay with that. As long as they spend quality time with me. Like, cause that's how crazy love languages are. But let's say I partner up with somebody who's just the opposite, right? They want to give gifts and they could care less about quality time because if I give them a gift or they give me a gift, that says it all. Well, if mine is quality time and they're just giving me gifts, which is my least one, what does that mean? In my mind, unless I know better, that's going to mean they don't love me. Like something's missing. And so when we know what our love languages are and we know what another person's love languages are, it just makes life so much easier. So, well, I say it's easier. Sometimes it's challenging hard. So the gift thing, yeah, like if my partner was somebody that needed gifts all the time, I would be like rolling my eyes. Why do I have to give a gift, right? Because it's like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But if I really love that person and I occasionally take that time, and it can be little things, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a picture of a flower. It could be a thought. Oh, look at this. I was thinking about getting this for you, but I didn't even know if you wanted it. Look at that picture, or send them a text thinking about you. Those are like little gifts. Okay, so I just want to let you know, gifts don't have to be big, but I don't want to I'm getting out of line. So my order. So let's start off with physical touch. So if you or your partner is someone who has physical touch as a love language, they may like cuddling, holding hands, back rub, feet rub, of course, sex. But there's a million different ways to connect. Like I said, that sergeant put her hand on my shoulder, and it was just like, wow, it really made a difference for me. For friends, I think you can kind of guess, but that touch of the arm, the hug, those seem to be very, very important to a lot of people. Locking arm in arm. I don't know. I'm so not high enough for this camera here. Sometimes like leaning your head on someone's shoulder or them leaning their head on yours, right? It could go on with yourself. So how do you give physical touch as a love language to yourself? That's the most important one for me to talk about today. So we'll talk about the partner, I will talk about the friend, but I'm going to really focus on the self. How does one give that love language to themselves? So if you are someone doing physical touch, what are some of the things you can do for yourself is create a daily skincare routine. There's something in yoga or not yoga. It's the, I can't think of it. It's Indian and Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I can't remember, but there's this skincare routine that's done that is like, there are people that just absolutely love it. And they're just so excited when that time of the year comes around so they can remember to do that in a very, very intentional way. Some people, it might be exercising, stretching, soaking in a hot tub, wearing certain clothing that make you just feel really good, maybe silk or something like that. Another way is just being in some kind of physical contact with your knee touching or whatever. But it's like, how can you give it to yourself? There's something called havening. Havening is a wonderful exercise people do where it is a soothing motion. If you're in public, you can do something like this, but it's physical touch. It can be very, very soothing if you're having a rough moment. All right. Now, let's go on to the next one, which is words of affirmation. So for a partner, whether it's you to your partner or your partner to you, if words of affirmation is the highest of the love languages or second, it's the verbal expressions. It's words that come out, right? So I love you, you're special, I enjoy time with you. It's words that can be spoken, compliments, if you will, or acknowledgement of things that you do well. So it might not be a compliment per se, like you're awesome, but it could be something like you are really, really, really good at X, editing or creating something, whatever. And so it's acknowledgement, which is huge, right? But it's speaking it as opposed to showing it, right? So giving a gift would be showing it, speaking it would be telling it. If somebody's love language, of course, is words of affirmation, there you go. A friend might be telling you what they like about you or tell you what they appreciate about you. Like, I just really appreciate when you help me out with this thing or when you just listen, right? So that's speaking to the words of affirmation that makes a person feel really, really loved. So how can you give words of affirmation to yourself? You could look in the mirror and say, I love you for 30 days in a row. Like, that's huge. Some people do that as an exercise. So if you want to do that, I guess it depends on where you are in your life, whether that's going to really make a difference or not. I did an exercise to say, I love you into the mirror as intentional as I could for 30 days. And I would say it in all kinds of ways. I love you. 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 I mean, all these different ways. And after 30 days for me at that point in time in my life, nothing. Okay? Nothing. I felt nothing. And yet there were other people in the group that did it, and some people had huge epiphanies. So if I did it now, with where I am now in my life, what I've learned, where I've come from, and now, it would make a huge difference. I do love myself now. I can easily look in the mirror and say, I love you. Back then I could not. So anyway, those are words of affirmation if that's something you'd like to practice. Other things you can do is say things to yourself to help yourself feel supported and fulfilled. Or you might be somebody that likes to journal. You might like affirmations, right? Because these are words that we have. Words can be written, words can be heard, right? Maybe a daily gratitude list. But because we're talking about ourselves and yourself, be sure to include what you are grateful for yourself, right? We're taught to be grateful for other people. I'm grateful for the trees. I'm grateful for the water. I'm grateful for these other people. But how am I grateful for me? And that's not being rude or egotistical or any of those other things. Being grateful for yourself is just an amazing, amazing thing to practice. I have here also, write a letter to your younger self, or write a letter to your future self. You know, what would you tell your younger self? What would you want your future self to know? I have done this before, and I sent it to a friend, and I said, would you please, in a sealed envelope, I said, and addressed and stamped and everything. I said, would you please in a year send this back to me? That was pretty crazy to get that and read it. Another one of words of affirmation for yourself is decorate places in your home. Let's see, like I have the word explore because I love that. Words of affirmation are kind of important to me. They're kind of my middle, but I like them a lot. All right, let's see. Something that you can do with others is tell, don't show. I don't know how much I agree with that 100% because we have text and electronics, and this was written a long time ago when they didn't have that. But people like to hear it from the person they care about. So, if I sent a text, man, you look really hot in those pants, whatever. I don't know if somebody sent that to me, I'd be like, oh, thank you, right? I don't know that I would need them to say that, or if I could read that they were saying it to me. So anyway, you can figure out from the individual you are participating with how they perceive that. Communicate often. That's a little bit of a choice. It depends on who you are and who the other person is, and how that shows up for you. But it is something that people who find words of affirmation as a love language really enjoy a lot of attention. And I'm not going to go into this, but I'm going to say something. All of the love languages are unmet needs. We have unmet needs in our lives, and it doesn't mean we can't meet them ourselves. Some people do, somehow they just do. Other people are like, I don't know how to meet my needs. If that's you, I've got other videos that talk about unmet needs. Feel free to look either on YouTube or go to my Facebook page, which is on Facebook. It's debbie.pearson.unstoppable. And, follow me and you'll receive some of the stuff that I do. So again, I'm not going to go into that here because we're talking about the 5 love languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, and I don't want to get thrown off course here. So when it comes to the next one is quality time. So what does quality time mean? I've had a relationship where for them quantity time was it. Not for me, though. It's like I don't need to sit next to somebody for 6 hours watching TV or be at an event or something. And I want the quality time. So what does that mean? That usually means undivided attention, putting the electronics away, being focused on what the other person's saying, engaging in back and forth conversation. For some people, it's just not necessary. They don't need it. Or for somebody like me, oh my gosh, it's the best. Can you tell that's my top priority? Mine is words of affirmation and quality time. So they go hand in hand, depending. And I say depending. I was surprised when a long time ago, I took 5 love languages. It was quality time. And I was like, yes, indeed. And then after COVID, it switched and it was physical touch. So I found that really interesting. I guess it can change depending on the circumstances. Like I said, spend quality time together is, undivided attention, looking at the partner, eye-to-eye contact. Pretty much the same with a friend, having minimal distractions and great conversation, but it can also be being side to side and like creating something together, an arts and crafts project, cooking a meal, anything like that. That's quality time where you're just being together doing something. But how do you spend quality time with yourself, right? Quality time with yourself might be something like you spend time online, but meaningfully, intentionally, maybe taking a course or learning something about yourself that you've wanted to know, but you just didn't take the time to do it because there was so much other stuff going on. But you're taking quality time for yourself because you realize that's a love language for me. I'm giving this love language to myself. We need to love ourselves, and this is how we can do it. It may be cooking a really good meal for ourselves. Of course, you can invite other people, but going for a walk. For me, that's moving meditation. I love it, except when I take the dogs because they want to stop every 15 steps to sniff and pee and stuff like that. So it's frustrating, but it might be, I do love walking. It could be getting up to watch the sunrise, journaling, and again, creating something. So it's like, what is it that you love to do? And that is a quality time for you because you matter, you're special, you deserve it. All right, so let's say a couple of other things, just for possibilities if you're participating with another person, especially if one or both of you have quality time. Doing an activity and then talking to them about what you did. Again, listening to what they have to say with really good eye-to-eye contact and confirming what they've said. If it's your partner, giving them undivided attention. If it's you, hopefully they're giving you undivided attention and not bringing in other stuff from, say, work or gossiping or whatever, but to really focus on each other. Now, the fourth out of 5 is receiving gifts. And I find this one a really interesting one because, like I said earlier, I don't understand it because I don't have that as a love language. And I'm going to talk about 2 people when we're finished this one and the next one. And it's going to be a story about when somebody has gifts and when somebody does not and what happens in that. So with gifts or receiving gifts, it seems like whether you are a gift giver, which means you're giving a gift means I'm giving you love, or you're receiving a gift means you're receiving love, it's a big deal for you. And I don't want to minimize it, but because for those people, it is big, just like quality time and words of affirmation for me is big. And so we have to honor everybody's love language. So receiving gifts, little gifts are great. Like I said, take a picture of something and send it to somebody. I was thinking of you. It's huge, right? For your partner especially, or a really good friend or something, the unexpected larger gift is also pretty awesome. But how do you give gifts to yourself? What do you do for yourself? For some people, it is a cup of coffee or a glass of wine in the evening. It could be a snack they've stuck in the back of the freezer in the broccoli box because they don't want anybody else to eat it, right? Might be a warm soak in the, yes, I've done that. So it might be a warm soak in the tub, right? What is your gift you give to yourself that makes you feel like you matter, you're important, and that's why you're doing it? So a few other ones are buy yourself flowers. You might have thought of that already. invest in a product that you've been eyeing, or put some money aside, right? Okay, I'm important. This is my gift to me. I'm going to put another percentage of that. Might be to eat at your favorite restaurant, because it might not be cheap. I don't know. Make yourself a care package. And I talked about this before, where I wrote a letter, but this says make yourself a care package. Give it to a friend and ask them to send it to you later on. So when it arrives in the mail, it's like you've received this really special gift, because you know yourself better than anybody. You know what colors you love. You know what kind of jewelry you love. You know what words matter to you. You know you, right? And so getting this gift from yourself, it's kind of this little, I don't know, it's a delight. I will say it is a delight. Maybe I do like gifts more than I thought I did. Anyway, one last thing might be to do something on your bucket list, right? All right, so let's go on to acts of service. So acts of service, if there's a partner involved, whether it's you or the other person, if you do something that makes that person feel significant or cared for, and that may be something around the house. I can tell you, for me, one time I was sick and I just felt horrible. And I have this sense of duty, like even though I'm sick, I've got to get up and do whatever. And I remember my husband got out the vacuum cleaner and just vacuumed the floors, which I had been looking at like going, oh, I need vacuuming. And he vacuumed the floors. And I just fell in love with him. Like, oh my God, thank you so much. It meant so much to me. So it was just a really small thing. And he only did the living room, which is fine. But that mattered. That mattered. So that mattered to me. Yeah, that mattered to me. And him doing that was an act of service. And it was just really, really special. So what are other things? Other little things around the house, whether the person is sick or not, doing dishes, picking up the kids, laundry, groceries, whatever. With friends, it's helping them out, bringing medicine to them if they're sick, the chicken soup for the soul or whatever. But now the thing is, okay, we've gotten partners and friends, but what about ourselves? How can we do acts of service for ourselves? And I took a little while to think about this. Like, how do you do acts of service for yourself? That's your like laundry list of things to do, right? But it could be something a little bit special that you do for yourself, like clearing out some clutter. Something about, I don't know about you, but when I clear out clutter, I just feel better. So that's an act of service for myself, where normally I might ignore it because I'm busy. But another act of service was, if I'm going to go out, maybe have a couple of drinks, go ahead and put a glass of water by the bedside before I leave, because I'm probably going to come in and stumble into bed. I don't do that, but I may have a glass or two of wine. But it's like, oh yeah, and it's really nice that it's sitting there. Give yourself a day off. Oh, that's a reverse act of service in a way. That's like, don't do things. I think that's pretty awesome too. Cook a meal. Maybe do a task you've been putting off, right? Get it out of the way and get that rock off of your shoulder. All right. So that's a bunch of things that you can do for yourself, for other people, or other people doing it for you. And it's pretty awesome, right? So knowing your love language, knowing your partner's love language or your friend's love language, you can intentionally give to them, not all the time if you don't want to, but when you want to, you can give to them a little special something a little bit more. Hi, Mercedes. Welcome. So the other thing is just a little story. So I have a client, and we'll just say my client's name's Danielle, her dad's name's Dave, right? Dave had the two love languages of physical touch and gifts. Physical touch and gifts. Danielle had love languages of quality time and words of affirmation. Danielle never really quite felt like her dad loved her. It was always like he couldn't give her what she needed, right? To her, what she needed was that quality time, that special time together. And she wanted something from words, tell me you love me, tell me you like something about me, appreciate something about me. But because dad's languages were physical touch and gifts, he was always going, come on, let's go to the ballpark. Let's go to the party. Let's go see some people and look at these kazoos. Or the leis, like Hawaiian leis. Or he would always buy these little trinket gifts. And she just couldn't understand. It's like, she's just so stupid. Why are you doing this, right? And he'd go, come on, this is great. It's great. Well, for him, physical touch, which is what? Hugs, enjoying each other, buddying up, like bumping up against each other, physical touch. And then gifts, he's like, here's a kazoo for you, and here's one for you, right? I feel like Oprah. And here's a kazoo for you, and here's a kazoo for you, and here's a kazoo for you. And so everybody gets kazoos, and people loved that, and they enjoyed it. And, it was just like, that was his love language. He was saying, I love you, and I love you, and I love you. Look, let me show you. Well, when Danielle realized that that's what was happening, all of a sudden, when he had bought her a necklace or a bracelet or, some other little gift, she began to understand, that's not my love language, but that's my dad telling me he loves me. And he's been doing that my whole life. But I always thought it was a trick. I thought he was trying to buy me off. So her whole visual of her dad, of his love language, of him trying to show love to her, it changed. Now, don't get me wrong. She still wanted quality time. She still wanted words of affirmation. But the hurt of no love and no connection was a little bit softer, because she could see there is love, there is connection. It's not quite what she needs and wants. That's something we needed to work on, and we have, but it is the way that it goes. At least there was a soft spot to be able to fall into, like, well, he does love me. It just isn't exactly the way that I would like to see it. This happens all the time with people, especially partners that get together. There's things that happen in the beginning. Maybe the prospective husband, boyfriend, whatever, will give flowers, give little gifts, speak a certain way. Oh, you look so beautiful in that dress. Let's go to this restaurant. And then time passes, and words of affirmation is not their love language, and giving gifts is not their love language, and it is yours. So they're not giving it anymore. And if that's yours, you may feel, they don't love me anymore. And then it's like there's this anger or frustration that comes up. Like, why don't you do it anymore? Right? And so then what we need to do is look at that person's love languages. And maybe we're not doing for them the love language they need. It is like this whole craziness. But if we break it down into little pieces, what's my love languages, what's his love languages or her love languages or whatever, and we begin to see, we can begin to mend some relationships and bring them back into some fold where it's just a little bit closer, a little bit more connected. And sometimes that's all it takes for that switch to happen. So that's all I'm going to be talking about today for love languages. If you want to know about your love language, I did put a link in the description, but you can go here. I hope you see it the correct way. That's 5lovelanguages.com. But it is in the description. And I'll be back next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central, and probably talking about attachment styles. Not promising that one. But if that's of interest to you, that's another fascinating, how do we connect or how do we not connect, right? Attachment style. So, all right, I'm Deb Pearson, helping you become more awesome on the inside. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see you later.